this has been how folks have come together. For volunteers, I met volunteers from as far away as Parksville, from Prince George, from Osoyoos. There were volunteers working here. There's people working in the regional district office who themselves are evacuated from Summerland and from the region. And the overwhelming spirit here is coming together to support neighbors and friends and British Columbians, and it is highly inspiring and incredibly moving. The professionalism, the energy, and the commitment of these volunteers and staff is absolutely second to none. It's world class. And I want to thank the local leadership and people who pulled together. The stories that I heard were very consistent, and they were around the speed of this horrific fire. From the wildfire service perspective, that it outran their modeling, and how quickly they had to pivot from what they call initial attack, where they show up to respond to a fire that's been reported, to just providing notice, getting people out as quickly as possible, knocking on doors, dropping the buckets, and just using the helicopters to get people lifted out of the area. From the local leadership perspective, anticipating an event that would require an evacuation alert and then an actual evacuation was not a luxury that they had, that this happened immediately, and that the numbers of people who were moved out of the community were large, and that resulted in an initial period of 24 to 48 hours of huge demand on services that were just not ready. And that there's an important set of lessons for us to take about how quickly this moved, and that this may be our new normal for fire speed, and that a crucial piece of work that we have to do is an after-action review, which we will do, to determine how we can be as prepared as possible to ensure the supports are there. With that, I want to say how remarkable it's been to see that despite the rapidity of the fire, the speed of the evacuation, the volume of the number of people, the fact that these are relatively small communities, not built to take on thousands of people moving in and fleeing their homes, how incredible the systems are that have been set up, that the wait times in the reception center are now half an hour or less, that the wait time on the phone is about a minute, that we have the rooms and spaces and accommodation to get people inside. And that would not have happened without the coordinated efforts of all of the people behind me and so many more people in the region. This has been a very moving and inspiring set of visits, and I'd like to pass on my thanks on behalf of the government and the people of BC to everybody who's pulled together here, and provide reassurance to those who are still out of their homes for longer than they expected, and who may be out for a bit more yet because of what we're hearing from the wildfire service, that the province stands with you, and you are not alone in this moment. And we will continue to work with your local leadership to make sure that we're delivering the services and supports that are needed to get you back home as quickly as possible, and for those who have lost everything, to begin that rebuilding work together. Thank you very much for coming, and it's been an honor to be here. And I want to thank all of the first responders, volunteers, and others who interrupted the crucial work that they're doing to share with me their experiences, and thank them for their commitment to the province. Thanks very much.
Thank you. I would now like to invite Chief Greg Gabriel of the Penticton Indian Band to offer a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome, Premier, to the unceded traditional lands of the Okanagan Silks people. I'm glad that you took time out of your schedule to come in and witness the devastating situation that we're currently dealing with. We have to be mindful also of not only this fire, but the fire prior to this one, the devastation that occurred with the Okanagan Indian Band. As I mentioned in earlier statements, we have fires to the north of us, fires to the south of us, fires to the west of us. And the amount of devastation and the volatility of those fires is something that we now need to recognize. Our world is changing at a rapid pace. You look at other countries, what they experience, similar to what we're experiencing here in BC. We need to work together. We need to come together and start fixing the problem that we created. These weather events are not a natural phenomenon. Each and every year we deal with the same situation, but we're not making any progress trying to fix these problems. We need to look at ways to help mitigate these things from happening. We need to look at the forestry industry and the logging practices. We're now currently suffering with drought conditions, where we've known that these issues happen each and every year, and yet we're not doing enough to address these crises or trying to prevent them. I think it's time that we use our voices to get the message out and start coming together and start looking at ways we can work together to fix the problems. First Nations need to be part of those discussions. We have our ways. We've dealt with these for thousands of years. You have the sciences that speak to the same issues, the same problems. And it's time. In my mind, I think we're at time that it might be too late. I also want to maybe touch on some of the issues that we need to address in our own area. These kinds of situations, in this particular fire, it was just unbelievable that so many people got displaced in a moment's notice. One of the issues that we always continuously face with these crises is an emergency alternate route, and that needs to be addressed. So I'm asking the Premier and the ministries to start working with the local leadership, municipalities and regional district to try and fix that particular problem before someone or more people end up getting seriously hurt. You know, I did want to touch on a number of things, but given the time, I'll leave it at that. I want to end by echoing the words of the Premier that we really need to give our thanks and show our gratitude to those brave people that are working on the front lines right now, protecting our communities, their bravery, and the hard, long hours that they put in. We need to thank them so much. I also want to recognize our partners that help not only the Penticton Indian Band, but there's other surrounding communities, our emergency services agencies, our first responders, the fire departments. They are all an amazing group of people that do the same hard work in protecting us all. Thank you very much.
Thanks. I would like to now call up Regional EOC Director Graham Statt.
Thank you very much. And my day job as the Chief Administrative Officer of the District of Summerland, I just want to take this opportunity to first say my own personal shout out to Summerland's finest, the RCMP officers and the firefighters of Summerland that in the wee hours of the evening on Friday responded so quickly during a fire event where a fire is moving with speed and violence, and they coordinated so quickly to get on that right away and to start all the evacuations and to start these things. But also District of Summerland staff themselves, who formed an emergency operations center in Summerland, started to communicate with the public, which of course eventuated into a full order evacuation of the community. We all were evacuated, and we combined our emergency operations center in Summerland with other emergency operations centers now to the Regional Emergency Operations Center, which is fully functional. It's staffed extremely well with professionals, and we're working very hard. One of the things I wanted to assure the community is, even though we're still in the response phase, that we are absolutely working incredibly hard in the planning and readiness for that re-entry where appropriate, in a staged approach of the community, getting things ready to get people back as soon as possible. But we have to do that in coordination with, of course, BC Wildfire, or making sure that things are safe for people. I just wanted to say that how much I personally appreciate Premier Eby coming to our Regional Emergency Operations Center today, taking time in his busy visit to visit staff there. He said things there that were inspirational, that it touched everybody. And we need that kind of encouragement. It also reminds us that we're all in this together, and we feel the support there. Lastly, I just wanted to say we've seen so much volunteerism. Not only volunteerism of staff coming together and doing all these things, but also the community. A big shout out to Rotary and other service organizations that jumped in to help us with the emergency support services when things were unclear and opaque and unfolding so quickly. They have done an incredible job, and we certainly have relied on volunteers to help us as we've worked through this situation. And we've had so many offers of donations and support of every kind of imaginable kind. The Emergency Operations Center is doing our best to roster those and push them out also to other organizations. And they keep flowing in. And I think that just shows the strength of community that we have here in the region. And that's all I'll say for today.
Mayor Doug Holmes of Summerland will be offering remarks for next.
I think Graham just stole my speech. First, thank you, Premier, and thank you, Minister Green, for coming here. And it's kind of humbling to think that you know, the attention the attention that we're receiving right now, and it is really encouraging for us that have that support from senior levels of government. We just had a really productive meeting with the Premier. We talked about some of the challenges of evacuating so many people on such a large scale, that it's really unprecedented for this region to have that kind of an evacuation. And we talked about the challenges we're going to have moving forward as we recover from this disaster, and that we'll need government support. This isn't something we're going to be able to do on our own, that the municipality and the regional district do not have the capacity or the ability or the resources to do what we'll need to do on the recovery side of things. And it's going to be a long, difficult recovery, and we'll need the government to be there supporting us the same way they're supporting us now in the response phase. And that was kind of, I think, the main thing that we talked about. And I have every confidence that the government won't forget about us. Thanks.
Thank you. I'd like to ask RDOS Electoral Area F Director Riley Gettins to come up and speak.
Thank you so much. And again, we can't say thanks enough to the folks that are out there working on the front line, the volunteers at the ESS, the community pulling together. So thank you for that. And as Mayor Holmes said, we did meet before coming to the podium today with the team that you see behind. And I just wanted to reiterate to everybody that this disaster has impacted communities, different communities. We've got Falder, Meadow Valley, North Region, Summerland, but you're now united because you've been living through this nightmare together for a really like a long time, since Friday night. What we also talked about in the meeting just before was that we're committed to continuing working together, multi-level, multi-government, to make sure that everybody gets treated the same. We have access to supports and resources. And again, like the Mayor said, to not forget about us when we are moving into that next phase, because we are going to need your support and help for time to come. So thank you.
Thank you. I would now like to invite Mayor Julius Bloomfield of Penticton.
Hello, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Premier and the members of his government for being here and taking a first look and a personal look at the devastation that has been caused and the work that is going into the recovery, the response and recovery of this event. I'd like to also thank the members of the emergency services, BC Wildfire, and the different agencies for the excellent reporting and the work that they are doing on the front lines. Friday night, Penticton was given a challenge, and the challenge was to embrace their neighbours, our neighbours, into our community in a very rapid fashion and to make them feel as comfortable as possible. It's a challenge that we accepted, we were proud to accept, and we are determined to make this event for them as comfortable as possible. And it's never going to be really comfortable, but we can make it as comfortable as possible and make our neighbours feel welcome in our community. Because we know that we all live in the same environment here. We live in the same valley. The lines that divide us, those municipal borders, they're just lines in the mountains. We're all here together, and we have to look out for one another. And I have had notes of support and offers of support from other communities to help us to help our neighbours. And that is part of being in the community and part of being in this valley and the group of communities that are here. And when you have a neighbour, you know, we've got a couple of neighbours, Summerland and Falder and Meadow Valley, you know, and they got some wounds, and we're here to help them put them right. Over the weekend, I spent some time in the evacuation centre, quite a bit of time, and I got to hear some of the personal stories of the people that have been evacuated, of seniors, families, people with livestock, and it started off with, on Saturday morning, it was in shock, and then despair, and then it moves on to anticipation of what's coming, trying to imagine what's coming. And I think that the people have been remarkably patient because they understand the difficulty and the speed and the complexity of this response. To have that number of people coming into a community and into evacuation centres is no small thing. And I think that most of the people have been very understanding of the difficulties in making sure that everybody gets looked after. But we are doing it, and that work is constantly improving, and we've opened up comfort centres around the city, and I think that the staff in the city and the regional district have done a remarkable job of making sure that those people, their needs are met as much as possible. Even when some of those staff have been impacted themselves by being evacuated out of their homes or even losing their homes. And so it's a remarkable feat that the city staff and the regional district staff are still working, providing support for the people that are evacuated, even when they are evacuated themselves. So I want to say a big thank you to everybody involved in this action, and let's learn something from it, but let's learn that we are one big community helping one another. Thank you.
Thank you. I would now like to ask MLA Amelia Boltby to offer a few remarks.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. We are here today talking about an unprecedented event that has never happened at this scale in our community. And I'll echo the sentiments of my colleagues behind me in thanking the bravery of the first responders, and that includes people manning the phones. It includes volunteers and all the amazing acts of bravery and selflessness that we've witnessed. As we are still in the response phase, my heart is with everyone affected by these fires, whether you're in Summerland, Meadow Valley, Falder, North Beach, and particularly my heart goes out to the friends and family of the woman who unfortunately passed away in the early days of this fire. In times like this, there's no such thing as jurisdictional lines. There's no such thing as party lines. All there is friends and neighbors and all of us coming together to make sure that folks who are in need get what they need. And I want to say how proud I am of the community. Every business owner is offering a hand, people volunteering. We've had more people volunteer than actually what we've had roles for them to do. And that's a testament to the spirit of the people of all of these communities coming together. I want everyone to know, whether you're in one of these more rural areas or not, you will not be forgotten, either in the response phase or the rebuild phase. No one will be forgotten, no one will be left behind. And once we get the fire contained and put out, it's going to be a long road to recovery, but I know I speak for all of my colleagues when I say that we are all here with you. And I want to thank, in particular, Minister Green and her staff for getting 70 people, getting the ESS line down from 8 hours to 30 minutes in the amazing response, and thank Premier Eby for coming here, and in particular, everyone who's putting themselves out to care for those in need. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your remarks. We're now going to move into a Q&A. So if I could ask Premier David Eby back up to the podium, he will answer some questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for joining us here today in Penticton. We're going to take questions from the media now. All members of the media will have one question and one follow-up. For media on the phone line, remember to press *1 to enter the queue and to unmute yourself when called upon. We're going to start with Daryl Greer from the Canadian Press.
Hello, Premier Eby. I'm wondering, after fires like in Clinton and Summerland, when it comes to urban interface fires, what can you say about the contrast to our approach to wildland fires in kind of hard-to-reach areas versus urban areas like Summerland that the mayor had said had caught the community off guard because of the speed?
Yeah, thanks. This is one of the themes I've really been hearing about from local leadership here, and one of the conversations I had with the wildfire service. So, Jeff, I wonder if you might consider stepping up on this one once I'm done. The themes include things like, should we be having discussions about requirements for new builds in interface areas to make sure that they're more resilient to wildfire, sprinkler systems, exterior cladding, that kind of thing. And what would that look like from the provincial level? Conversations about, our historic practice of preserving the trees around around local communities, while logging operations are happening a little further away, has had the unintended effect of creating a buildup of fuel around communities in the interface areas, and having conversations about how we better manage those areas. I'll say as well, there's been some pretty clear messages from local community leaders about the positive impact of the Fire Smart funding and the supports for the preventative work, and that they've really seen that where those programs have been deployed in local communities here, there's been a beneficial impact on the community. So there are a number of different aspects to that conversation. I suspect that will be one of the major takeaways from this fire season is a deeper conversation about interface areas. But I'm going to turn it over to the experts here to provide a little perspective.
Yeah, so this is an area that we can come together and really work in partnership with local first responders, fire departments, and BC Wildfire. Really getting out there, training, working in that urban interface, really homing in on our skills, and really making it an area that we can operate together. It's no secret that fire is moving faster into that interface, and we do have a challenge. So into preventative space in and around the spring, using things like prescribed fire, really working to modify that landscape so that we have a fighting chance when we get into the fire season itself, and really spending that time working, training together, and really living the experience so that we are better equipped and ready to respond when these fires do impact the communities.
Thank you. And we're also just wondering if anyone has any kind of updated information or clarity on the severity of structural losses, especially in Summerland. And we're also wondering if there is any further details on the circumstances of this woman's death. Like what people are really wondering is, you know, was it as a result of the fire itself, or was it as a result of you know, the attempt to evacuate? Was it a fall? Was it the smoke? Was it the fire? But I understand if it might be too early to say. We're just hoping for some clarity if it's there.
Okay, I'll invite Beth to come up and speak on behalf of the RCMP on your second question, and on your first question. I wonder if regional district or local leadership on when structures, and specifically when people's homes are lost in a fire disaster like this. We lean very heavily on local community leaders around notification and ensuring that people are notified in a respectful way. And also there's been a challenge about just physically getting in to some of these areas. The heavy urban search and rescue teams from Metro Vancouver are joining the effort out here. They're going to be supporting the work to go in and do assessments around safety and structure loss. And so we're in a process right now in terms of those assessments. And I don't know, Jeff, who the best person would be to respond to this. But first, let me say, before Beth comes up, how many times I've heard about the remarkable efforts of RCMP officers in the Summerland, Meadow Valley, Falder, North Beach area, providing that notification to the community, and some of the heroic work that happened. So let me just thank your members before you come up and speak on this.
Good afternoon, and just in regards to your request around an update around the sudden death we had confirmed earlier this week, what I can tell you is that we continue to work with BC Coroner's Service, and keeping in mind this unfolded on Friday, and now here we are Wednesday, we're very much in the infancy of determining the actual nature and cause of this woman's death. And as you can imagine, there's an extreme amount of sensitivity that goes along with what we report out to the public in relation to that. And we'll be doing that in consultation with BC Coroner's Service. And so I know that's not entirely what you would like to hear, but we are progressing, and we are pushing forward to get answers for this family in particular, which is our priority, and then report out what we can to the community. And very sensitive time. And as you can imagine, we too are still very much involved in the security efforts to protect the evacuated locations. And we have very many officers from across the province doing that work. So we remain committed to communicating as much as we can. You'll just have to continue to wait. And thank you for that.
With respect to structure loss, I totally understand how people would be desperate for information. Your home is a place of comfort. It's got all of your memories, family and friends being there. At this time, it's still an active fire zone, and we are calling in heavy urban search and rescue to assist with rapid damage assessments. We have done this in other fires where there can be hazardous situations. We want to make sure that everybody is kept safe at all times. As that information becomes available, we'll have the regional district and the municipality reach out directly to their constituents to be able to share information. I spoke with a responder at Eby who was doing notifications for structure loss in that community, and they shared with me that having that conversation, having that call is one of the most devastating moments of a person's life. And so the last thing that I would want is somebody to have the shock of finding out on social media or on television about their home being lost. It's very important that we're able to connect directly with people about the condition of their homes. That work is ongoing, and as soon as we're able, we will get that information to people. Thank you.
Next, we'll head to Sarah McDonald with Global News.
Thank you. Hi, Premier Eby, this is for you. I don't mean to take you off guard with this. We got this statement from the federal government, essentially implying that its request for federal assistance was approved late Saturday, and it's still waiting for response from the province. Can I read you a sentence from this for context?
Go ahead. Yep.
It says, following BC's request, we rapidly completed an assessment of available federal facilities and other assets that could support the province's wildfire evacuation response. We have provided the province with a list of available federal facilities for its consideration. We are now working closely with provincial officials to determine which of these resources would best meet the needs of affected communities and where they are required. We are awaiting the province's confirmation of its specific needs so that we can move forward to mobilize the appropriate federal support. Am I reading this wrong, or is the federal government being left on red?
Yeah, I'll pass that on to the minister. But let me say, in terms of accommodation, that was our initial request to the federal government, was for assistance given the large number of people moving. For people out there who maybe don't have accommodation, who feel there might be a shortage, there is not. You can go to the emergency center. We have hotel rooms block booked. And we have space we can get you in. The challenge has been, as I understand it, people with pets has been a big piece of the accommodation challenge, making sure that they're pet-friendly accommodation, and we're not finding a place where the pet can go, or and in some cases livestock, to ensure that both parties are looked after properly. But with that, I'll pass it over to the minister.
So, okay. Yeah, Minister Green, what's going on here? Have you not, it's been 4 days now, have you not responded to the federal government? That seems to be what they are implying here. This is your counterpart, essentially, on a federal level. Who's saying this? So what's happening here?
Thanks very much for the question. Really appreciate the federal government's very quick turnaround of our request for assistance. At the time it was made, there was a significant accommodation challenge with the number of people that were being evacuated. Our priority is always to make sure that people have the supports that they need, and those supports are in place. So if people still haven't registered for emergency support services, please come to the registration center, call us online, we're ready to help you. In terms of the need for accommodation now, we did at the same time ask visitors in the Summerland area to consider that now is not the time to visit. And the public has been very helpful. They've completed their trips, they've gone home, and they're largely staying away from the area right now. So we were able to secure a significant amount of accommodation in the area and meeting the needs of people at this moment. But we're not out of the woods yet. There is still the possibility for significant fire activity. This accommodation that's available is on standby, which is really important so that we can meet the moment. We expect that conditions will change quite significantly. And so being ready for that is really important.
Right, so how come you haven't accepted the federal funding that's being offered?
The request for assistance was for accommodation, and so that accommodation is available to us should we need it. Right now, our accommodation needs are being met with the available capacity in the community.
Was it specifically for accommodation? Sorry, Premier Eby, just follow up with you.
Just to be clear, we would never turn down federal funding.
That's what it sounds like everyone's being very polite here, but I'm just, okay, so it seems like the feds are saying, we want to help in any way we can.
And we will be
And
there.
I'm hearing you saying, well, thank you so much, but we politely decline. I guess that's kind of what I'm hearing.
Well, the accommodation, as I understand things, is not required right now, and we certainly appreciate the offer, but we have hotel rooms for people, which is preferable to the sort of group barracks style cadet camp, for example, that we were looking at in the immediate hours after the emergency.
Would you seek or accept emergency assistance funding in other aspects when it comes to?
Without question, and I don't understand anything other than that the federal government will be there as we sort of work with our local government partners here to understand the implications of all of this, whether it's around support for local businesses where homeowners have lost their homes because their homes were uninsurable or only insurable at incredibly prohibitive rates, and all of the other pieces. The feds have been good partners in this to date. We expect that to continue.
Thanks. Thank you for clarifying.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Next, we'll head to Brandon Phillips with the Black Press.
Hi. So the Okanagan has been through multiple years of consistent drought, which has contributed to the drying out of the fuel sources. And we've seen multiple winters with minimal precipitation, record lows. What is going to be done, and I believe it's been said that we need to start treating this as the new normal. So what is going to be done in changing forest practices, fire mitigation, controlled burns, going forwards so that we aren't having this kind of massive conflagration?
Yeah, thanks. It's an important question, and I think that it is going to require us to work closely with First Nations, local government leaders, and community members on it, because it traditionally has been the approach that around communities, the forestry practices have been different than further out. And those interface areas where the fuel has really built up are significant risk areas for us, obviously, as we've seen in this period of drought here and in other parts of the province. I know that will be one of the key areas we get into in terms of the after-action report on this, but it's also one of the areas as government we've been doing some active work on and around thinning in interface areas to reduce fuel loads, where that also provides support around fiber supply, for example, for pulp or for local mills. There's always a challenge when you're talking about park areas, habitat areas for particular threatened species, and other balancing of other interests. And so none of this is simple. I don't pretend that it is. Some people do. It's not simple. But it is crucial that we do this work together. And one of the big pieces of work that we're doing that will assist with this is the landscape planning process that we're engaging in across the province, where we're working together to understand crucial areas, and which will speed up permitting, but will also have the beneficial impact of wildfire management as part of the integrated landscape plan around communities. I wonder, Jeff, do you have any specific thoughts about this from the wildfire expertise?
Yeah, on the ground, we're investing in our firefighters. We're converting a number of them to full-time so that we can take advantage of those off-seasons to be able to do things like prescribed fire, to get out and do that collaborative training with different communities, and really make an effort to do the fuel treatments that need to be done so that we can actually have these defendable spaces to work off of. So yeah, really investing in our people to be able to do that work, and working alongside the broader ministry to look at wildfire risk reduction as well, and the funding available, and collaborating with local governments as well to see how we can modify the landscape to be able to take better advantage of fighting fire.
And a follow-up for the Premier. The province is, probably for the Premier, the Okanagan is under drought conditions. It moved up, I believe, to the highest level at the end of July. And the water scarcity meter, which was introduced this year, has also now gone up to high levels for the Okanagan. Is there enough water for firefighting efforts through the rest of the summer, or are communities going to have to see further reductions and dramatic reductions in their water usage in order to ensure that there's enough in case of further emergencies?
Thanks. Yeah, I'll pass this on to the relevant experts at a wildfire service first, maybe, and then maybe if there's a local government perspective on this as well.
Yeah, so there's many different tools that we're using to fight these fires. In some cases, we're introducing fire to kind of control that. There's a lot of handwork that's done as well, and so in terms of the amount of water that's used, we have the available resource. It's obviously something that's in the back of our minds, and working with local government and fire departments to make sure we have the available resource to us. But we have many tactics, and that we operate under that pretense.
Graham, for you.
Thank you very much. A great question. I'd say a couple things. First is there's an abundance of water in Okanagan Lake, and we can access that for tenders. Of course, we see air tankers picking that water up, and it's going to be fine from the lake perspective. But I can also say the District of Summerland itself actually takes no water from the lake. Our entire water system is based on water that's held back in water storage in headwaters areas in 11 different dams. And our water resource situation in the District of Summerland is actually in a really good condition, and we have a lot of water, not only to meet firefighting, but agricultural irrigation when that restarts later on.
Next, we'll head to Tiffany with CBC Penticton.
Hi, we spoke to some residents who didn't receive an emergency alert, yet their neighbor's houses burned down and their house nearly burned down. And then when it came to registering, they found it very confusing and difficult with the app. What would you say to those residents?
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, when you're under a huge amount of stress, your home is threatened, you've lost your home. The first thing I want to say is, the province is with you, and I'm so sorry that this happened to you. This is so awful. And our goal as a province is to make this as painless as possible for people when they're facing their worst moment, to be able to access the resources. I can tell you, but it's cold comfort for these folks, that the system is 100 times better than it was a couple of years ago. That doesn't mean that there's not a need for it to be 100 times better for the next group that has to face emergency in our province. And so we're going to take the lessons that we learned from this fire and apply them and make sure it's better. The app's not perfect, but the app took a huge amount of pressure off of having to attend in person, which was the old system, at the emergency reception system. I just want to imagine for a second that we didn't have that, and everybody who was evacuated had to attend physically in person at the reception center in order to register using paper forms. And so this is a step improvement, but it's not good enough, and we have to do more, and we will do more. So their feedback is going to be crucial for us. In terms of notifications, the phone notifications, the emergency notifications are one mechanism that we have. In a fast-moving fire like we saw, we had to go, and I say we, I mean the heroes on the ground had to go old school, knocking on doors, You got to get out of here. You got to go. And that was delivered by RCMP, Wildfire Service, Summerland Fire Department. I met a captain of the Summerland Fire Department, and he just had such positive things to say about the relationship with the Wildfire Service and how they all work together. We have to use all of these tools to get people out in an emergency situation. We'll have a look, of course, at how the notifications go out, and if there were groups that were missed or there are refinements that need to happen. But in this kind of situation, we don't leave it to the phone notifications. There's banging on the door. You got to go. First responders putting themselves on the line to get people out, and a lot of them, and including those that were working those helicopters, getting people out. They really put themselves in significant harm's way to save lives, and it would have been far, and it's already super tragic, but it would have been a far more tragic event without their efforts, and I just want to say thank you to them again.
You mentioned that an after-action review will be taking place. Could you talk about that a little bit more? Like, what will that entail?
Absolutely. So after any major disaster, evacuation like this, internally within government, we always do an after-action review. After the last major set of fires that we had in the province, we brought together experts in wildfire, and they all assisted in reviewing what had happened and assisted us in bringing a number of reforms in, which included the app and some other components around wildfire response that made this response better than last time. And so we'll do that. We'll repeat that cycle again. And we'll bring together the experts. We'll bring together the experts on local government that have lived through it, that saw how it could be better, that are hearing from their constituents about how it could be better, and then we'll implement that for the next time, because the reality is, in terms of the drought conditions we face, the temperatures we're seeing over the summers, this is very unlikely to be the last significant fire we see this summer. And certainly we are going to see significant fires in summers to come. So each time we want to get better at what we do, saving lives, preserving structures, and minimizing friction for people who need to access emergency response.
Next one to Dan with the Penticton Herald.
Hi, Premier Eby. Just one question. Chief Greg Gabriel's going to ask it as well, as he mentioned about paving an alternate route. Is there any reason why you wouldn't grant that request at this point?
Yeah, it's a great point the chief has made about the need for a secondary method for people to get out of communities. I'll say this is not the only community in the province that uses Forest Service roads in emergency response situations. The Ministry of Transportation has been out. They've been grading. They've been spraying the roads to keep the dust down. But it is a Forest Service road. It's not a paved road. I heard we had a good conversation about it in the meeting. And I want to thank the chief and other local leaders for raising this important egress route. We'll go back to Ministry of Transportation and work with them on this. There is significant demand across the province for additional roads, secondary egress. And so we'll work with the local community here and the Ministry of Transportation in terms of prioritization. Thanks.
Next, we'll head to Chelsea with Castanet.
Hi there, thanks for your time. I just want to focus a little bit in on imagery from Summerland. You've spoken a lot about response there, and the community response has been amazing. I just want to make sure that the government is looking into photos, videos, all of those things that people are looking for. Mm-hmm. Is there any plan for that you can say from a provincial level that is in place at this point, or like in the works at this point, so that people are knowing what they're going home to? Yeah,
thanks very much. And I'm not sucking up here. I just want to pass it on. And in the spirit of transparency, I was stopped by somebody in the Lower Mainland who had been evacuated and who had traveled to the Lower Mainland to get away from the fire, and she just expressed so much appreciation for Castanet's coverage. She said she knows it's a small outlet, but she felt super. So I just wanted to pass that on. I understand that people really want this information. They want to know, first of all, specifically the people who have been evacuated. They want to know when they can go back. They want to know if everything's okay with their home and their property. That is the number one priority, and that their notification is compassionate, and that they're the first to know, and that they receive that direct call. As hard as it is for volunteers to make that call, that's a crucial piece. The need for people across the province, around the world, and because there is international interest in the scale of fires, national interest, to know about the seriousness of climate change, of drought, of the kinds of fires we're facing. We will do our best to get that information out by sharing what we're having to deal with here in British Columbia. And we also know that we saw horrific fire seasons well before Ontario, Quebec, Manitoba, Eastern Canada. It's important that the rest of the country understands also what is coming, because they're starting to see the fires that we saw a few years ago. And so for all those reasons, yes, we will have photos and video and whatever we can share in terms of those pieces so that people can really understand the seriousness of what we're grappling with here. And again, I'll pass on my thanks to journalists generally for sharing clear, understandable information to the public, because it's absolutely crucial.
And just as a follow-up, if I have a second, it is important to us, obviously, as you said, to make it very clear to the public what it specifically is happening. But we are getting a lot of people asking us, what does it look like on the scene? So do we have a timeline from the government about when we might be able to see some actual official videos? Because we are not trying to be in the business of getting things wrong. So
yeah, absolutely.
You know,
And also, you know, I want to recognize the challenge of some of the misinformation that can circulate very quickly in the absence of official photographs, video, and so on that people can rely on, and especially in this era of AI imagery. So I understand the crucial importance of it, and we'll get it as quickly as possible, but I don't know if the Wildfire Service has a perspective on that.
that would be great if this, talk about when we can get access to what's going on at the scene.
Yeah, so the team on the ground, like their primary function right now is to make sure they're securing the fire line. And that's really what Hugh and his team are focused on, working alongside local fire department to really get that secure. As you can see outside, there's some significant weather coming as well. And so I might put it to Hugh to kind of give a bit of an update from there. And that's our primary function right now. And then we'll start working with local government to start seeing what re-entry could look like and to start getting those pictures out.
If you have some, I appreciate it too. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I guess I'd start by saying that the Wildfire Service is here to put out the fires, to take away that risk. We also have to be working where the fire is going, while there's still hazard that is lingering where these homes are. And in these drought-ridden conditions, the resources that we've deployed, and a lot of them being the structure protection resources, are still required there. There's the potential for fire to linger, to come back. There's a bunch of technical terms for it I'm not going to jump into, but we don't leave as quickly as the fire front does. We have to maintain a presence over a very large area. And then there's still the hazards that are associated not with heat, but with the down power lines, sloughing of roads and whatnot. So it does take a lot of time, and it is for a very large area. And we appreciate very much that people want that news. It's hard to get it delivered, but we have to work with our partners so they can get in, do the assessments, and get the information out in a respectful manner.
If I can just, sorry, I'm so sorry. I know there's other media, but while we've got you there, to explain that there is some damage, potential, or not damage, danger of wildfires sparking up. I've heard that from you guys before over the past 5 days. It's been a while, right? But like, I just want to make sure to people who are listening and watching that they understand it's not about just the fire front. If I understand that correctly, it's not wildfire flames. There's still danger.
Well, to be abundantly clear, there is still very much danger, and there is a lot of perimeter with active fire burning in many directions.
Yes.
That is very much the case. It is not just a matter of finding small hidden hot spots that are going to come up and creep on us. That's in play as well, very much in the urban environment. But along the perimeter of this fire, there is a lot of perimeter that is exposed to a variety of weather that could move this fire in any number of ways. But we're busy responding to that as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to make that clear to all of our listeners.
We have time for one more question, and we're going to head to Radio Canada.
Mine's for Premier Eby. So what are the criteria for you to ask for the armed forces to come in?
Thanks. The only criteria is that our experts from the wildfire service or from emergency management say that that would be a helpful resource, and then immediately we would make that request. I had this conversation with the wildfire service this morning. They say the armed forces can play an important role in, especially in mop-up operations, but the areas where they're currently battling this fire, that they are relying on their contractor teams and the wildfire service to be able to respond to that, and that at this point there's not a need for the armed forces to come in. We wouldn't hesitate. I wouldn't hesitate if they said there's a helpful role to be played here. I certainly don't rule it out. This has been a brutal start to our fire season that had a delayed start, but a horrific start here in the province, and so it's certainly possible. But at this point, that call hasn't gone out yet.
Hi, Premier Eby. Julia Wong, CBC National. Farms and ranches seem to have been greatly impacted by this wildfire. You know, we've talked with farmers who are worried about their orchards. We've heard that some crops may be completely destroyed. I've spoken with others who say their livestock were wiped out by this wildfire. Is there going to be financial assistance made available to farmers and ranchers?
Yeah, thanks. I spoke to a guy downtown who was visiting his parents who run a fruit stand, and he was like, you know, the peach farmers, they should be taking their peaches off the trees right now. They can't get in. There's huge concern among farmers that want to be able to get to animals that are behind the fire line, and it's just not safe for them to go in. Great frustration for them. I was talking with the mayor of Summerland about how people can lose track of how agricultural that community is, how many farms there are in that community. The Minister of Agriculture has been working to identify buddy farms to be able to move livestock out of the fire area and onto another farm where it's safe. There will be, and there is provincial insurance for crop losses, including related to wildfire. But for detail, maybe I'll pass it over to Minister Green, who's a little bit more steeped in it right now.
Thank you. We know that we need to support our farmers. This is a matter of food security. It's important to our communities, and they are a really important part of the fabric of British Columbia. Before the season starts, we do work with our agricultural associations to make sure that we're planning ahead for the season, and that includes working specifically with producers that have a large amount of livestock to understand how to evacuate in the case of emergency or re-enter to be with safety protocols through a pass system through the Emergency Operations Center to be able to care for their animals. We know that this is an important priority. We also have an agricultural emergency personnel embedded in the Emergency Operations Center to be able to provide that contact with our agricultural community. This work is ongoing, and I know that it's incredibly difficult for farmers that can't have re-entry right now because it's just not safe enough. I empathize greatly with that situation. Our first priority is the safety of lives and making sure that people are safe as this fire unfolds. I know that the Minister of Agriculture is already connecting with affected producers and working on what recovery looks like. This is still an active fire, and so some of the questions can't be answered at this very moment, but they are already in progress, and I know that it's a priority for our government and for the Minister of Agriculture to make sure that farmers are supported here in BC.
Thank you very much, everyone. That concludes today's event.